Stand up right now if you're physically able to do so. Go ahead. I'll wait patiently while you get to your feet. Now take a deliberate moment to really tune in and notice exactly how your body and mind feel in this precise instant. Is there a little stiffness settling into your joints or back? Perhaps a sense of overall tiredness weighing you down? Or maybe even that familiar mental fog clouding your thoughts just a bit? Here's an important truth that unfortunately far too many seniors overlook or dismiss entirely. That subtle mental dullness you're possibly experiencing right now, along with those frustrating occasional slips in memory or word finding, may not actually be an inevitable or just normal part of growing older, as so many people have come to believe over the years. Here is the truly eye-opening and often shocking truth behind the scenes. These persistent, ongoing sleep issues are quietly, steadily chipping away at the long-term health and function of your brain, doing so silently, without inflicting any noticeable physical pain, without flashing clear and obvious red flag warning signals, and frequently without you even being consciously aware that this gradual damaging process is taking place beneath the surface. What if I were to tell you, right here and now, that the single biggest hidden culprit quietly undermining and impairing brain health in so many older adults isn't excessive consumption of sugar, isn't the accumulation of chronic daily stress over the years, and isn't even primarily driven by your genetic background, but rather something far more ordinary, everyday, and within your power to change, your actual sleep habits, patterns, and routines? My name is Doctor, and for more than 20 full years, I have dedicated my professional life and clinical research specifically to studying and understanding the profound connections between sleep patterns and long-term brain health, especially in the senior population. Time and time again in my daily practice, I have witnessed the same troubling, repeating pattern unfold with heartbreaking consistency. Seniors walk into my office fully convinced, often deeply worried, and sometimes even frightened, that their increasing memory lapses, their growing short temper or irritability, or their emerging episodes of confusion and disorientation are simply unavoidable, irreversible hallmarks of getting older that everyone must eventually face. But in a surprisingly large proportion of these cases, once we carefully examine the full picture, the true underlying root cause turns out to be something much more manageable, correctable, and treatable. Namely, the way these individuals have been sleeping, or, more precisely, the ways in which they have been failing to achieve consistently high-quality, restorative sleep, night after night. What the vast majority of people have long been told, and what is still commonly repeated in popular advice about sleep, is, unfortunately, fundamentally incomplete. It misses several of the most critical and impactful details. Getting good sleep is not solely, or even primarily, about the raw number of hours you manage to spend lying horizontally in bed each night. Sleep is, in reality, the single most vital and non-negotiable daily period during which your brain carries out an extensive array of essential maintenance and repair tasks behind the scenes. It actively clears out and flushes away the accumulated harmful metabolic waste products and toxic proteins that build up during waking hours, including the notorious beta amyloid linked to cognitive decline. It firmly consolidates and strengthens the new memories and learned information you formed throughout the day. It performs delicate repairs on damaged or frayed neural connections, and it effectively resets and rebalances your emotional centers to restore stability and resilience for the coming day. Whenever sleep becomes consistently disrupted, fragmented, shallow, or insufficient in quality, even if the total hours seem adequate, the brain is almost invariably the very first organ to begin manifesting the downstream damage, decline, and dysfunction. From a precise clinical and neuroscientific perspective, the suprachiasmatic nucleus, SCN, essentially the brain's master internal clock located in the hypothalamus, depends heavily on receiving consistent, reliable, repetitive timing cues from your daily routine and environment in order to synchronize and operate at peak efficiency. Whenever bedtime varies too widely or erratically, even by just an hour or two night to night, the duration and quality of deep NREM sleep, which is completely indispensable for effective long-term memory consolidation and synaptic pruning, become noticeably shortened, reduced, and fragmented. Researchers at the University of Colorado Boulder conducted a rigorous, detailed, long-term longitudinal study in which they carefully followed 300 adults across a full 8-year period. Their published findings revealed that individuals who maintained inconsistent or highly variable sleep schedules experienced a striking 30% faster rate of decline, specifically in episodic memory performance, the kind of memory involved in recalling personal events and experiences, and this accelerated decline occurred even in cases where the total number of sleep hours obtained each night stayed roughly the same on average. Another surprisingly prevalent habit that affects a very large number of seniors is the tendency to lie awake in bed for extended periods, anywhere from 20 minutes all the way up to 60 minutes or even longer, night after night, while casually assuming or convincing themselves that it's really no big deal, or everyone has nights like this. But here's precisely what makes this particular habit so especially problematic, insidious, and self-perpetuating. Your brain is an extraordinarily powerful lifelong learning and association-forming machine. It never stops creating strong conditioned links between places, activities, and internal states. When you remain awake, alert, restless, or anxious in your bed for prolonged stretches repeatedly over weeks and months, your brain gradually but powerfully begins to forge and reinforce a strong association between your bed and a state of wakefulness, mental activation, rumination, worry, or even low-level stress, rather than the deep, peaceful, restorative rest it is biologically designed to represent. Over time, this learned, maladaptive association directly contributes to lighter sleep architecture overall, much more frequent micro-awakenings and fragmentation during the night, and significantly reduced amounts of slow-wave, restorative deep sleep. Think of it in terms of a very relatable, everyday analogy. It's very much like repeatedly attempting to park and leave your car sitting idle right in the middle of a hectic, noisy, high-traffic urban intersection instead of in a calm, secure garage. Your bed is intended to serve as a quiet, safe, predictable sanctuary and garage for both your mind and body to fully rest and recharge. But by staying awake and engaged in it for long periods night after night, you effectively transform that peaceful, intended rest space into something resembling chaotic rush hour traffic with horns blaring and constant stimulation. Studies carefully conducted by researchers at Johns Hopkins University, which tracked 250 adults all aged 65 years and older over an extended period, demonstrated unequivocally that those individuals who habitually spent extended periods lying awake in bed ended up experiencing an average of 42% more disruptive nighttime awakenings and also recorded significantly elevated levels of morning anxiety and tension. The subtle, yet very real and accumulating downstream consequences include steadily worsening brain fog during waking hours, persistent feelings of irritability or short fuse, reduced emotional resilience, and even the emergence or intensification of new or previously mild anxiety patterns, even among people who historically had little to no significant history of anxiety disorders at all. Picture your brain functioning like a large, absorbent sponge during your waking hours. It needs to fully soak up and accumulate enough wakefulness fluid, built-up sleep pressure, from extended active periods so that it can be thoroughly squeezed, wrung out, and cleansed during the restorative nighttime period. When that daytime soaking up phase is artificially shortened by heading to bed far too early, the subsequent nighttime cleaning, repair, and consolidation process simply cannot occur as thoroughly or effectively as it should. Researchers at the University of Michigan conducted detailed polysomnography studies that clearly demonstrated seniors who consistently maintained very early bedtimes, often 8 p.m. or earlier, ended up with REM sleep cycles that were approximately 20% shorter on average, even when they were spending a full 9 to 10 hours lying in bed attempting to rest. This particular mismatched timing pattern often closely mimics, and can be mistaken for, some of the very earliest observable clinical signs of emerging cognitive decline or mild cognitive impairment. Fortunately, in the vast majority of cases, this pattern proves to be largely reversible and correctable once the proper bedtime timing adjustments are systematically implemented. Additionally, Stanford University researchers were able to demonstrate through carefully controlled experiments that even relatively low levels of ambient light exposure during the nighttime hours in adults aged 65 and older resulted in a dramatic suppression of melatonin production, often by as much as 50%. This significant melatonin reduction directly translated into objectively lighter and less efficient sleep stages, overall noticeably weaker performance on next-day tests of new memory formation and retention, and subtle but measurable declines in executive function. Far too many seniors continue to underestimate just how powerful and cumulatively damaging this one seemingly small environmental factor can be, largely because the brain itself does not produce any immediate, dramatic, or painful signals of distress when melatonin is chronically suppressed. Instead, the negative cognitive and emotional effects build up slowly, quietly, and insidiously over extended periods of months and years, making the connection to poor sleep hygiene much harder to recognize in real time. Then there was Harold, a 68-year-old gentleman who had gradually shifted to going to bed as early as 7 p.m. each evening, firmly believing that maximizing time spent lying down would naturally translate to better rest, faster recovery, and more energy the following day. Unfortunately, the opposite occurred. He found himself waking consistently and reliably around 3 a.m., wide awake, unable to return to meaningful sleep, and staring at the ceiling in frustration for hours. Formal neuropsychological memory testing at the time revealed mild, but clearly measurable declines in his short-term recall and working memory abilities. He had also been relying on a low-dose over-the-counter or prescribed sleep medication nightly for several years already, which was beginning to lose effectiveness. After we collaborated closely to establish a fixed, non-negotiable wake-up time each morning, regardless of sleep quality the night before, significantly reduced all sources of nighttime light exposure, especially from electronics and hallway lights, and gradually shifted his bedtime later in small, manageable 15-minute increments every few nights, Harold's tracked deep sleep percentage increased by an impressive 35% according to data from his wearable sleep monitor. Within 8 weeks of consistency, his performance on standard word recall and list learning tests improved dramatically, from 15 correct items out of 20 to a strong 19 out of 20. The persistent, heavy morning brain fog that had been plaguing him for years completely lifted like a curtain, and his overall daytime mood became noticeably more stable, even-keeled, patient, and positive. The rest protocol successfully helped restore his brain's natural repair, recovery, and regulatory rhythms. The first and perhaps most foundational element of all is rhythm. Specifically, anchoring and locking in your wake-up time as firmly, consistently, and non-negotiably as possible every single day. Make a serious, committed promise to yourself to wake up and get out of bed at exactly the same time every morning, no matter how poorly or how little you may have slept the night before. The next key pillar is stimulus control, a classic, highly effective behavioral sleep medicine technique. If you happen to find yourself lying awake in bed for longer than 20 to 30 minutes during the night, whether at the beginning, middle, or toward morning, and genuine sleep still isn't arriving despite your best efforts to relax, get up out of bed gently, calmly, and without frustration or self-criticism. Keep all lights very low and dim, use a small red or amber nightlight if needed for safety, and choose to do something truly boring, passive, and completely non-stimulating, such as reading a few dull, uninteresting pages from a dry book you don't particularly care about, listening to calm, quiet, non-narrative audio, like soft nature sounds or instrumental music, or simply sitting quietly in another room. The central goal here is to gently but firmly retrain and recondition your brain to form and strengthen a powerful, positive, automatic association between your bed and bedroom and the physiological, psychological states of rest, relaxation, drowsiness, and eventual deep sleep, rather than wakefulness, mental activity, rumination, worry, or anxiety. Research published by experts at Johns Hopkins University has shown that consistently applying this straightforward stimulus control technique can reduce the average frequency of nighttime awakenings by approximately 42% among seniors within just 6 weeks of regular, diligent practice. Moving on to timing, the third pillar, aim to establish and protect an ideal bedtime window somewhere between roughly 9:30 p.m. and 10:30 p.m. for most people in their senior years. This can be adjusted slightly based on your natural chronotype and daily schedule, but it serves as a strong evidence-based target range. If your current habitual bedtime is considerably earlier than that optimal window, say 7:30 p.m. or 8 p.m., work on gradually shifting it later by small, gentle increments of about 15 minutes every few nights until you reach a more biologically appropriate position. Finally, take deliberate, proactive steps to limit all sources of nighttime light exposure, and thoughtfully evaluate any ongoing or habitual use of sleep medications in close consultation with your personal physician. After sunset, or as soon as practical in the evening, switch exclusively to dim, warm-toned, amber or red spectrum lighting throughout your home, and make a firm, consistent rule to avoid all blue light-emitting screens, phones, tablets, computers, e-readers, televisions, for at least 1 full hour before bedtime, and ideally longer. 90 minutes to 2 hours is even better. Protecting and preserving your body's natural endogenous melatonin production is absolutely essential for achieving deeper, more efficient, more restorative sleep stages, and for supporting effective overnight memory repair, synaptic homeostasis, and emotional recalibration processes. Even relatively modest but consistent and sustained changes in light hygiene and screen avoidance can produce surprisingly meaningful, measurable, and lasting positive differences in how your brain functions, feels, and performs from day to day. I want to be extremely clear, responsible, and cautious about one critically important point before we wrap up. The REST protocol is presented here as a set of safe, evidence-based lifestyle and behavioral sleep hygiene strategies designed to optimize natural sleep quality and support brain health. It is not offered or intended as any kind of medical cure, treatment, reversal, or prevention for formally diagnosed neurological conditions such as dementia, Alzheimer's disease, vascular cognitive impairment, Lewy body disease, frontotemporal dementia, or other serious progressive neurological disorders. Under no circumstances should you ever discontinue, reduce, increase, or alter any prescribed medications, including but not limited to sleep aids, antidepressants, blood pressure medications, or cognitive enhancers, without first discussing the proposed changes thoroughly and receiving explicit approval from your treating physician or neurologist. Furthermore, if you currently live with or have been diagnosed with conditions such as obstructive sleep apnea, especially if untreated, significant heart-related issues, e.g., congestive heart failure, recent heart attack, arrhythmias, severe or untreated clinical depression, bipolar disorder, restless leg syndrome, chronic pain syndromes that disrupt sleep, or any other major medical or psychiatric condition that could interact with sleep changes, please make absolutely sure to consult your primary care doctor, sleep specialist, or relevant specialist before implementing any substantial adjustments to your sleep routines or environment. The safest, most effective, and most sustainable approach is always to start slowly, gently, and progressively. Begin by locking in that consistent wake-up time as your anchor, then gradually adjust your target bedtime window over a period of days or weeks, and only later layer in stimulus control techniques and stricter light management practices once the foundation is solid. Your body and brain adapt far more comfortably, effectively, and lastingly to gradual incremental shifts rather than sudden drastic overhauls. These recommended changes remain very low risk overall, are considered safe for the vast majority of older adults when introduced mindfully, and are strongly supported by a growing, robust body of peer-reviewed scientific evidence demonstrating genuine, objectively measurable benefits for sleep quality, cognitive performance, and brain health markers in aging populations. Here is my personal challenge and invitation to each of you watching, listening, or reading today. Pick just one single element from the REST protocol, whether that means committing wholeheartedly to a rock-solid fixed wake-up time every single morning, even on weekends, carefully adjusting and protecting your bedtime window to the 9:30, 10:30 p.m. range, becoming much more intentional and disciplined about managing and reducing light exposure after dark, or diligently practicing stimulus control whenever you find yourself awake in bed for too long, and stick with that one chosen. Change consistently, without exception, for the next full 30 days. As you move through those weeks, take just a brief moment each day, perhaps in the morning over coffee or at night before lights out, to jot down or mentally note how your mental clarity feels, how steady your mood is, and how reliable your memory seems compared to before you started. Then, when the 30 days are complete, please come back to this video, post, or thread and leave a sincere, honest comment sharing your personal experience. What worked, what felt challenging, and what differences, big or small, you noticed in your daily brain function, energy, mood, or sense of sharpness. Your authentic stories have the real power to encourage, inspire, motivate, and give hope to others who may be in very similar situations right now, and they help build genuine accountability, connection, and community around taking proactive steps for brain health. Your brain has faithfully carried you through decades of life's many joys, profound challenges, hard-won triumphs, heartbreaking hardships, quiet victories, and everything in between. It has been your constant companion, your problem solver, your memory keeper, your emotional anchor. It truly deserves far better than to be casually dismissed, written off, or resigned to as just getting older, when so much of the decline may actually stem from correctable sleep patterns rather than irreversible aging alone. The encouraging, empowering reality is that you really can take meaningful, practical, science-backed steps right now to support sharper memory function, clearer and more sustained daily focus and concentration, steadier emotional balance, and a greater overall sense of mental vitality, all simply by making thoughtful, consistent, evidence-based improvements to your sleep habits and routines. The truth that far too many people continue to overlook, undervalue, or miss entirely is this: poor, disrupted, inconsistent, or low-quality sleep habits, not excessive sugar intake over the years, not ongoing chronic stress by itself, and not solely your genetic inheritance, are quietly, persistently influencing, impairing, and accelerating decline in your brain function every single day, often without inflicting any pain, without sending dramatic and the immediate warnings, and without drawing obvious attention to the connection. After dedicating more than 20 years specifically to the intersection of senior brain health and sleep science in both research and case and clinical settings, I've witnessed this exact same preventable pattern repeating itself over and over again in practice with hundreds upon hundreds of patients. Memory lapses, increased irritability or emotional reactivity, growing confusion or word-finding difficulty, persistent daytime fatigue, and reduced mental resilience very frequently trace their origins back to underlying chronic sleep disruptions and suboptimal sleep architecture rather than to pure, unavoidable, unstoppable aging processes alone. Sleep is so much more than merely the passive hours spent lying in bed. It serves as the vital, active nightly window during which your brain performs essential housekeeping, clearing out toxic metabolic waste products that accumulate during the day, consolidating and strengthening the day's newly formed memories into long-term storage, carrying out microscopic repairs to damaged or weakened neural connections, and resetting your emotional equilibrium and limbic system for greater stability and adaptability in the days ahead. When sleep quality consistently falters, becomes fragmented, or loses depth, your brain inevitably feels the consequences first and most directly, often long before other organs show overt signs. Thank you sincerely from the bottom of my heart for taking the time to watch, listen, or read all the way through to this point. It means a great deal that you invested this time in learning about something so foundational to your long-term well-being. Please feel completely free and encouraged to drop your current age in the comments below. It helps build community perspective. Type the word foggy if that single word resonates deeply with how you're thinking or energy feels these days, or simply write, "I'm in," if you're ready and motivated to start making at least one small, doable change from the rest protocol beginning tonight or tomorrow. Protecting and improving your sleep really is one of the kindest, most powerful, most accessible, and highest leverage things you can do for the long-term health, sharpness, and vitality of your mind. I truly appreciate you being here with me today, and I genuinely look forward to hearing from you soon, whether it's your brain-restored confirmation, your 30-day update, or just a quick note about how this information landed for you. Take good care of yourself and your sleep. Until next time.